How does Nicolas Cage deal with breakups? Where did his unique Western kabuki acting style come from? And what eccentric purchase almost killed him? Hi, I'm Rob and let's go find out how Nick Cage is living his awesome life. Raise your voice and follow your heart. One of the things Nick likes to do a lot is changing how he speaks for a role. Remember how he screamed in rage?
Get off! You talk! I give shoulder guts to your boss!
Or how he used his nasal voice in Army of One.
Don't you think I look a little like Nick Cage in Con Air?
Sometimes it's absolutely hilarious to hear Cage showing another kind of voice in a new movie, but whenever he does it, it's always on point. We'll get back to his acting a bit later because there's something else about Cage's voice that we just have to discuss. Have you seen the recording of him singing Prince's Purple Rain at the karaoke bar?
Purple rain! Purple rain!
Well, it's hard to call it singing. Cage later shared that he wasn't even going to sing that evening. It was more like primal scream therapy, he said. And he also explained that he needed to let it all out as he was going through a bad breakup. Been there, man. And speaking of his personal life, it's also like no other. The guy has recently gotten married for the 5th time, and the longest marriage he's had so far lasted for 6 years, while the shortest one to a makeup artist Erika Koike was only 4 days. Apparently both were pretty wasted during their wedding in Vegas. Are you also getting Ross and Rachel vibes right now? Anyway, before Nick started getting married here and there, he liked himself some magic mushrooms. In fact, he liked them so much he kept them within easy reach, so that even his cat Liz could find some. Yes, that really happened. And while Nick's feline friend was tripping, the actor decided that the only thing he could do was join him. So he popped in some shrooms too.
I remember lying in my bed for hours, and Lewis was on the desk across from the bed for hours, staring at each other.
The best thing was that it became kind of a bonding experience for Nick and Lewis. I had no doubt that he was my brother, actor shared. I wonder what the cat thought about it. Anyway, we're moving on to the next rule Nick Cage certainly follows. Don't mind some legal trouble. No one is safe against robberies and heists, and Nick Cage, among many other stars, learned this from personal experience. But nothing is ever really typical about him, even when a man broke into his house in the middle of the night. Let me draw you a picture. One night, Nick is sleeping. He suddenly wakes up at 2 a.m. and opens his eyes to see a stranger standing in front of his bed, eating a fudgesicle, wearing Cage's leather jacket, and nothing else. Not something you see every day, huh? I know it sounds funny, but it was horrifying, Nick commented. I bet. Naturally, the actor called the police, and until the cops arrived, he just talked to the trespasser. He was kind enough not to press charges because evidently the guy had mental issues. But after the incident, Nick couldn't stay in that house anymore, so he had to buy a new one. I don't know if his forthcoming real estate spending spree happened because of it, but it did cause him some legal troubles. Over 10 years ago, Cage spent a total of $33 million on a few luxurious houses, despite being in financial ruin. And then he failed to repay over $5 million in loans. And as if that wasn't enough, he also faced a legal battle with his former accountant. The guy blamed Nick's financial collapse on his compulsive, self-destructive spendings. But he's Nick Cage, dude. Can't he just buy things he wants? We'll talk about it later, so stay tuned, and meanwhile, create your own acting style. Hollywood's greatest surrealist. This isn't the title given to Cage by some cocky journalist. This is what Nick calls himself. In an interview with the New York Times, he said, "Early in my career, I was very specific in my concept of who I wanted to be. I saw myself as surrealist. This is going to sound pretentious, but I was, quote, trying to invent my own mythology, unquote, around myself." You can't argue that he was successful in it, because even when you're watching a Cage movie that isn't good, you still enjoy his captivating and unpredictable performance. And many fans will watch a movie with Cage just to see him freaking out. He goes crazy as a villain in Face Off, he screams about bees in The Wicker Man, and he's mad at perps in Bad Lieutenant. And his movie Wild at Heart is, well, just one extended freak out for Cage's ultimate fans. You can't argue that Nic has built his entire career on bold choices. Let's look at his past roles. A philosophical but slightly dim career criminal in Raising Arizona, a romantic southern outlaw in Wild at Heart, a literary critic who descends into madness and gives birth to a famous meme in Vampire's Kiss. Unforgettable. And yet, to become such a unique actor, Nic had to break some ties. Did you know that he's the nephew of the legendary director Francis Ford Coppola? Yeah, Nic did not want anyone to know this, so he changed his name Nicolas Kim Coppola at the beginning of his career. A long time ago, Nicolas defined himself as separate from his famous relatives and turned himself into another legend associated with no one and nothing else. The actor himself described his original acting technique as nouveau shamanic and Western kabuki. Yeah, you got it right, he creates his own acting style. But you probably don't understand what it means. This is how he explains it. Western kabuki to me was, let's go all the way out. Nouveau shamanic is nothing other than trying to augment your imagination to get to the performance without feeling like you're faking it.
And I would walk on the set and then wouldn't speak to anybody, wouldn't say a word, so I projected this aura of horror, which created fear in my fellow actors, which then inspired me to believe I really was this character.
Did it get any clearer? Well, okay, you don't have to understand what he means, just take a look at his vast filmography. And when I say vast, I mean vast. Just in the past 2 years, he has appeared in almost 20 movies. Considering his acting methods and the way he leans into his work, it's an astonishing number. Nic works so much because he has a very distinct goal. He wants to appear in at least 150 movies in his career. That's me speaking to my Golden Age heroes. Those guys all did like 150, Cage explained. He's doing pretty well because he's already acted in over 110 movies. The most recent project of Nic's is a Netflix docuseries History of Swear Words. And let's just agree that Nic Cage plus swear words equals perfect match. Highly recommended. And also this year we're going to see him in a yet untitled Joe Exotic series where he's playing the titular character. Remember the Tiger King guy who got famous at the beginning of the quarantine? Yeah, that's the one. According to the series synopsis, it will show us Joe as he fights to keep his animal park even at the risk of losing his sanity. We all know that Cage can play madness to the core, right? So there's not a single doubt that he'll deliver an epic performance, and he indeed is Nic Exotic. Speaking of which, get yourself an octopus and a haunted mansion. Nic Cage is no stranger to exotic pets. A while ago, he owned 2 king cobras nicknamed Moby and Sheba. They lived at his home, and as the actor once revealed, they were trying to kill him.
Actually, if they bite me, I won't get bit, but if they do, I've got 15 minutes to live, so I have to get like an antidote, which is next to the cage, and I just plunge into my knee and I'll be all right.
Cage even said that they'd launch at him.
He's doing this dance, and every now and then I'll just turn around and go, you, I want to kill you!
He couldn't take it any longer and soon decided to rehome the snakes in a zoo. But Nic never regretted keeping the cobras because they allegedly helped him prepare for a role. They would try to hypnotize you by going side to side, and when I did Ghost Rider's Spirit of Vengeance, that's something my character does before he attacks. But those cobras weren't Nic's only acting coaches. He later owned an octopus that cost him $150,000. Fortunately, this marine creature wasn't as dangerous as the cobras, and as Nic once said, it helped him become a better actor, although he never explained how exactly. But Cage did once say that it was restful to watch the little guy swimming around its tank. Do you think that's eccentric? Wait for it, the actor once purchased a haunted mansion just for the sake of having a scary atmosphere to write a horror novel. But for some reason, it hasn't helped him become the next Stephen King. Yet. On top of it all, Nic once purchased 2 European castles where he thought he would find the Holy Grail. Yeah, you heard that correctly. Do I ever have to say that he didn't find it? And after falling into above-mentioned financial trouble, he eventually had to sell these castles. Oh, and one more thing, a while ago Cage bought himself a tomb. That's right, it's a 9-foot pyramid tomb that features a Latin saying Omni ab uno. It translates as everything from one. Nick never shared why he purchased it, but he was spotted near it with a mystery woman about a year ago. Don't know about you, but that gives me chills. By the way, that companion of Nick's is no longer a mystery. She is a 26-year-old Raiko Shibati who recently became the 5th Mrs. Cage, and yet regardless of what happens in Nick's private life, he knows that one has to remain a good guy no matter what. Did you know that good old Nick has been repeatedly called one of the most generous celebrities? He has donated millions to various causes and organizations such as Amnesty International. He became the first artist to support artworks. It's a program that seeks to raise awareness of fundamental rights at work and fight slavery and child labor. Besides this, Nick also donated $1 million to the victims of Hurricane Katrina. Sure, that's less than his mansion's cost, but it's still a lot. For all his efforts, Cage received a humanitarian award from the United Nations, and he was also appointed as a UN ambassador for global justice twice. What's more, when he was working on the film Lord of War, he decided to raise awareness about international arms control. And he also contributes to building intensive care units for babies, supports charities that help homeless people, and does so many other things, so we can certainly forgive him his quirks. Who is there with no sin, right? And if you'd like to learn more about epic personalities, watch another video we made about Elon Musk. And don't forget to stay awesome!